Vanakkam Dohadeva and everyone. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And I'll share the screen here. First topic. Okay, first topic is not sharing. Oh, share, okay. There we go. First topic is shared. See what it is. Okay, this is an oldie but a goodie. Hindu Tools for Success, Part 1. September 19, 2009. Imagine that, huh? More than 12 years ago. Kuala Lumpur, Kandaswamy Temple. So you will get a chance to see my original keynote skills 13 years ago were pretty simple. This is not the same technology now being used. So Hindu Tools for Success, based on Gurudeva's teachings. So we will start with the question, what is true success? And after that, we'll look at 5 specific Hindu tools for achieving true success. We won't do all 5 today, but once we go through the entire presentation, we will have listed 5 specific Hindu tools for achieving true success. But first, question to you. How would you define true success? What is true success from the Hindu point of view, not from the popular secular point of view? In today's material world, success in life is popularly measured by looking at people's professional and family life. Do they have a good, well-paying job, a large home with a highly educated spouse and intelligent children? If the answer is yes, then they are considered to be successful. We will take that as our initial definition of success, and throughout this section of the presentation, deepen and broaden it in important ways. So in other words, Hinduism agrees with that definition of success in that that's a subset that's included in a broader definition of success. That is the Hindu viewpoint. So we'll begin deepening and broadening our understanding by looking at the concept of the 4 goals of Hindu family life. It's drawn from our book, What is Hinduism? Chapter 10, Family Life and Monastic Life. So we all know the Purusharthas, 4 goals of life. Humans may legitimately engage, also called Sattvavarga, cornerstone of Hindu ethics. So why don't you see if you remember them in Sanskrit before I list them? What are the 4 goals of life in Sanskrit? We have Dharma or virtue, Artha or wealth, and yes, Artha or wealth, that's good. Kama or love, and Moksha or liberation. So what are they in Tamil? Who remembers the Purusharthas in Dhamma? Aha. What does Dharma become? So there's a couple of different words for wealth, but otherwise it's pretty standard. Aram for Dharma, Poru for wealth, Inbam for love, and Vida for moksha. On occasion I am asked, I am a Hindu but don't know much about my religion. How would you define Hinduism? One of the answers I give to this question is to mention that Hinduism provides us with the four goals of life we have just reviewed. All religions believe in the existence of the soul and in an ultimate destination for the soul through their concepts, though their concepts are quite different. The Hindu concept is, of course, moksha, that we are continuing to reincarnate on earth, which is our graphic Punarjanma, until we experience God deeply enough that we are liberated from the cycle of rebirth, samsara. Therefore, what distinguishes Hinduism from other religions is the need to have such an experience of God, which is called enlightenment, God realization, and self-realization. So many religions don't have that concept. You live once, you go to heaven or hell. Very simple. And some people go to hell eternally. As I like to say in Hinduism, everyone goes to heaven eventually. So clearly, which is the better religion? One where heaven's guaranteed or where it's not? But anyway, the point here is the experience of God. Some type of deep experience of God is required to break through the cycle of reincarnation. In one of his Nandinada Sutras, Gurudeva stresses the Purusharthas. Shiva's followers are ever mindful that life's purpose is to wholeheartedly serve God, gods, and Guru, and fulfill the four traditional Hindu goals. Duty, dharma, wealth, artha, love, kama, and liberation, moksha. Those on the grahastha path of family life pursue all four goals, and the way they do so changes according to their age or ashrama in life. So that's a subtlety that some Hindus don't know, that our duties in life aren't constant. The duties of a 10-year-old and the duties of a 70-year-old are not the same. For the grahastha in the first ashrama, for someone on the grahastha path, because grahastha has two meanings, in the first ashrama, brahmachari, age 12 to 24, as we know, focused on schooling and preparing for a profession and married life. Second ashrama, grahastha, 24 to 48, busy time of life, raising a family and fulfilling a career. Third ashrama, vanaprastha, age 48 to 72. Time of transition from family and career to one of elder advisor to the younger generation. And pretty soon we're going to have to create one for age 96. Because the Hindu lifespan concept is 120 years. So it's just, we haven't quite gotten there yet with lots of people living past age 96. But when we do, then we need to distinguish what are the differences between those over 72 and those over 96. Fourth ashrama, sannyasa, age 72 onward, is the time in which the primary focus is on moksha, meaning that religious practices are one's main activity. So now we want to look, we all know that. So this is looking in more depth. First at artha and kama. So as we pointed out in the first few slides, these two goals are actually common to all of mankind. Hindu families pursue the same ideals of success, family, and wealth as do families in Western society. If you ask anyone what they desire from life, except monks, of course, their answer will certainly include that they want to fall in love, have children, and live a happy family life. Got one click ahead here. They want to learn a profession so that they can earn a good living, provide for their family a home, and all the possessions that are needed. So that's, of course, the idea of wealth and love, common to all people following the family path. So in more depth, some good insights here from Gurudeva. Artha's material welfare and abundance, money, property, possessions. Includes the necessities of life, food, money, clothing, and shelter. Extends to the wealth acquired to maintain a comfortable home, raise a family, fulfill a career, and perform religious duties. But Gurudeva adds even more. Embracing financial independence, freedom from debt. Worthy children, good friends, leisure time, faithful servants, trustworthy employees. The joys of giving, feeding the poor, supporting religious mendicants, worshiping devoutly, protecting all creatures, and offering hospitality to guests. All of that involves wealth in one way or another. In other words, Artha measures not only riches, but also the quality of life, providing the security needed to pursue Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. Kama, of course, is earthly love, aesthetic and cultural fulfillment, pleasures of the world, joys of family and friends, intellectual satisfaction, happiness, security, physicality, creativity, usefulness, and inspiration. A few extra ideas from Gurudeva there. Dharma, as we know, relates to how we pursue wealth and love. If we acquire our wealth honestly, and we're loyal to our spouse, then that's doing it in a dharmic way. So I'm going to have to come up with a new example here. Satguru Computer Services. It says recently in India, so this is dated. So he got off track and got into some serious fraud and ended up in jail. So you get carried away in business. That's the point, is you can start in business very sincerely, very honestly, and then for various reasons, the pressures of running a corporation or the challenges of running a partnership, whatever, you can get off track and start doing things in dishonest ways. So we don't want to allow that to happen. And when it comes to marriage and not following Dharma, we're ending up with more divorce in the Hindu community, generally because of an extramarital affair. And we also have, when we're young, we can be influenced by peer pressure and end up getting off track and engaged in some youthful misdeeds. So, Gurudeva emphasized that children should be studying ethical values to keep them on track. And since our modern education system is secular, these ethical studies need to take place in our religious institutions. Gurudeva would say, education needs to not only teach us to read and write, but what to read and write. Isn't that beautiful? Education needs to not only teach us to read and write, but what to read and write. Classic statement. So we want our children to have good character. So we have Tirukural. Then we have hospitality. So we just did that recently, so we won't spend time on that. So the purpose of a home is not to provide shelter and all to the immediate family, but to provide hospitality to guests. So that was in Gurudeva's idea of Artha, wealth. Wealth is part of the importance of wealth. Fulfilling that is to provide hospitality. So of course that this is getting into something new. Tirukural verse has expanded the Purusharth of Dharma beyond merely acting virtuously into the realm of giving, dana, helping others. Another way of stating the same idea is to say that from the Hindu point of view, success does not end with acquiring wealth, but extends into the wise use of that wealth to help others, including generously supporting our Hindu temples and other Hindu institutions. So that's a part of success that isn't in the standard definition of just having a nice home and family and all, is sharing that wealth through meaningful charitable activities. So we want to be a person famous for being charitable. Tirukral, go on. So we have some things on hospitality, which I'll skip. Gurdeva says, don't ask a guest once to stay. Go up to 4 times, because it's polite the first time you're asked to refuse. Oh, I don't need to stay for dinner. Oh, please, please stay. So Gurdeva says, don't stop with 2. Ask for 4. Ask 4 times. Gurudeva's Sutra, hospitality flows from Shiva's followers like sweet music from a veena. Guests are treated as gods. Friends, relatives, acquaintances, even strangers are humbled by the overwhelming, ever-willing attention received. Then there's a long story I won't read here about Grandma was really good at feeding everyone and set a good example and passed it on to the children and grandchildren. Even set aside a portion to be fed to the cows. So then we have sacrifice again. It's another form of giving. So that's maybe a concept not everyone has heard before. Sacrifice is the act of giving up to a greater power, a cherished possession, be it money, time, intelligence, or a physical object to manifest a greater good. Sacrifice is similar to charity, but has the aspect of doing without, some form of self-denial. So in other words, if you're just being charitable, you're using your surplus funds, money you didn't need to spend on yourself. But sacrifice, you're using the funds you would have spent on yourself, and therefore you're denying yourself some activity. So skipping a meal, giving the money to a Hindu home for the aged. So you want to train children in self-denial. They could skip certain things, then use the money saved. You could all make a family activity of skipping something and then helping feed people, such as in this photograph. So make it a fun family activity. So here we have one from Grandma that looks interesting. My grandma never tired of reminding us that the Hindu religion always glorified sacrifice. It was considered heroic to make sacrifice for the family members. Hindu epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata report that even great beings like Lord Rama and noble kings like the Pandavas had to endure trying circumstances and make sacrifices. So what's wrong if ordinary people had to make some sacrifices, she would say. Parents often make great sacrifices to give a good education to their children. Many Hindu parents have gone hungry to afford quality education for their children. Children in turn curtail their freedom and luxury when parents grow old and infirm and need support from the younger generation. A Hindu never pities a sacrifice, but glories it with appreciation. So we have our summary of Dharma. Fulfillment of virtue, good works, duties and responsibilities, restraints and observances, performing one's part in the service and upliftment of society. So that's the idea of giving, stepping outside of one's family to be of service to others in society. Religious disciplines, pursuit of truth under a guru, steady guide for artha and kama, ultimately leads the soul to moksha. So then we get moksha. Moksha comes when all karmas are resolved and God has been realized. So thus it is clear that the three goals of Dharma, Artha, and Kama are not ends in themselves, but they do provide the environment and experiences which help us achieve God realization. Nice statement here by Anandamayi Ma. Man is a human being only so much as he aspires to self-realization. This is what human birth is meant for. To realize the One is the supreme duty of every human being. So clearly, the Hindu concept of true success can't leave out moksha. It's the one duty. So most of you have seen this one before. It's my ability to put an audience to sleep. You remember what my secret is? Just within a few minutes, everybody will fall asleep. Is to talk at length about moksha. Puts everybody to sleep, except monks, of course. So why is this? It is because moksha seems so far off, something to be concerned about in a future life, something that is for monks to think about. This is because everyone feels that the challenges they are facing in day-to-day living are a sufficient focus, and there is no need to also think about moksha. Good point, but it misses another approach, which will be coming up here. Therefore, the challenge to be overcome in talking about moksha is to make it relevant to our day-to-day life and take away the futuristic sense. The way I do this is to refer to moksha as the destination and then spend the rest of the presentation on moksha describing the journey that leads to moksha. Or how can we make spiritual progress? What can we do today, along with our busy commitments to life, to increase our spiritual progress that we wouldn't necessarily do? So this is my analogy to dance. That talk I gave at Arangetram. It comes up with 5 similarities between dance and the spiritual path. So we all know the answer to this one. What is needed to become a good dancer? So everyone, when I ask this, generally when you ask a question to a Hindu group, you don't get a lot of responses. Everyone's a bit shy for one reason or another to say anything. But when you ask this question, everybody responds. Everybody feels totally confident in their answer. What is needed to become a good dancer? And the answer, of course, is practice. Spiritual journey that leads to moksha is the same. We move forward on this journey by practice, ideally daily practice, just like in dance. Once the importance of practice is established, the question naturally arises, what do we practice? And these are our different disciplines in Hinduism. So of course you could say Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, but this is kind of the English simplification here. Divided spiritual practices into 4 categories. Good conduct. So everyone passes that on to their children. The concept of good conduct is part of success. Service, that's one that's not necessarily passed on, and it's important. Depending on one's commitments, should get involved in a service project on a regular basis. Doesn't have to be a religious one. Could be helping clean the park, whatever works, without having to spend too much time going to and from. Of course, expression of devotion, bhakti, and practices of meditation. So the bottom line is, if we're regular in those practices, then we're moving forward in our journey toward moksha. So we need to find time in our busy lives to engage in those practices. So, to success, summary. 4 goals, of course. Don't need to read them. And then such individuals have developed good character and share their wealth with others, and thus are considered pillars of the community. So that's the goal. We want our children to be successful, to become wealthy, and share their wealth and be considered pillars of their community. And that they are also serious seekers of the within through their regular spiritual practices. And what distinguishes Hinduism from other religion is our need to achieve moksha through a profound personal experience of God. Success in the moksha goal of life is measured in moving significantly toward, read that again, is measured in moving significantly forward in the journey toward moksha through regular spiritual practices. In other words, it takes many lifetimes of striving for moksha to actually achieve it. So that's why it's the journey toward moksha that is the goal. We want to move forward. As moksha takes many lifetimes to achieve, it is important that you remember to enjoy the journey. As Gurudeva says, life is meant to be lived joyously. There is in much of the world the belief that life is a burden, the feeling of penitence, that it is good to suffer, good for the soul. In fact, spiritual life is not that way at all. So in Hinduism, the idea is if we're suffering, we need to find a way to move out of suffering. If we're unhappy, we need to find a way to move out of unhappy. If we're feeling guilty, we need to find a way to adjust or compensate for whatever it is we did wrong that makes us feel guilty. So whenever a negative emotion, we're kind of stuck in it, Hinduism provides us a tool or tools for moving out of it, back to being a joyous person. So it's a little repetitious to the chorale, but that's because this is drawing on the chorale a bit, but it's different. It's related to the chorale, but it's adding different thoughts. And as I say, this is basically trying to define success. And it's much broader than just material success. That's the point. And we want to pass that on to the kids. What we want them to achieve, what true success encompasses, all that true success encompasses. And now we get our youth from Mauritius. This next individual's fun-looking individual, stage performer. Rajesh Sitohul, age 25, theater artist, is the youngest theater director in Mauritius. He also runs his own film production company. Rajeshwar became famous by playing the negative character Ravana in the play Ravan Leela. Why Ravana? Early, many people were playing Ram Leela. Everyone was kind of bored watching the same thing again and again. They had already watched it on TV so many times. So, to attract youth with a new angle to the same story, we started performing Ravana Leela. The message is the same, victory of truth over evil, but the story is depicted from Ravana's point of view. I'm Hindu. I've done my Namakarana, Anaprasana, Chudakarana samskaras. People can tell I'm a Hindu as I have my Raksha Sutra and always wear Rudrakshas and an Om bracelet. I would categorize myself as spiritual, but not religious. Okay, answers our question right there. Diwali is my favorite festival because on this day the whole island is covered with lights and good vibes. All families come together to decorate the house and also for Lakshmi Puja. Mauritius is a small island, so it's easier for everyone to get together, and we look forward to such occasions. Diwali is also the festival that marks victory of good over evil. My second favorite festival is Mahashivaratri, where we get to do service to the pilgrims. I also enjoy Holi. Concerning marriage, the issue of caste always comes from elders, but my parents are very open-minded and treat everyone the same, so jati won't be such an issue. I like the concept of karma in Hinduism. I find some of the rites and rituals senseless, like applying vermilion on a rock and worshiping it without knowing who they are really praying to. Good point. We want to know why we're doing something. Otherwise, it can turn into superstition, and it can even turn into something that's creating a negative energy. So it's very important to know why you're doing specific practice. And we have our third topic, trumpets, drum rolls, something new, answering questions sent to satsang@hindu.org. So if any of you aren't aware of that, that's a new email designed just to receive questions that will be answered in this segment of the presentation. And as I mentioned, some of you didn't hear me explain it before, has to be impersonal. You can't ask, will I get married next year? It has to be an impersonal philosophical question in order to be appropriate for this venue. Oh, this is our first series of questions. Does the student devotee need to request initiation, mantra diksha, or is it offered when they are seen to be deemed to be ready, worthy? The answer is, in our tradition, for each initiation, there is a study to be completed as well as certain practices. When those are successfully completed, initiation is given. In other words, it's automatic if you complete the study and complete the practices that are preparatory. There's no question of being ready or not. How does one awaken the inner light, prepare, find, achieve, and keep the namutana experience? That's a Shum word for first inner light experience, namutana. How does one avoid feeling less than or unworthy when not having yet had this revelatory experience? Answer. Basically, the light is there, something's covering it. That's a good way to look at it. What is covering the light? Why can't we see the inner light? Well, something's in our subconscious mind, or a number of things are in the subconscious mind covering it, so we can't see through them, so to speak. So we need to do that which removes this covering. We need to purify the subconscious mind, and we have practices for that, such as Vasanada Tantra, Karma Yoga, to name just two. And that will normally clear it out. So, in terms of not feeling bad about something, it's easy to not feel bad. You learn any instrument, you could feel bad that you're not yet up to the concert level. Or a second-year Bharatanatyam student regrets that she can't do Arangetram next year. So things take time. We need to be patient, accept the natural timing that a specific discipline that is inherent in a specific discipline. So focus on doing the current practice well, and you'll get to the goal. How are we to view reincarnation opportunities when the apparent future of human beings on this planet is looking less sustainable and perhaps threatened? Global warming. Well, there's a number of ways of answering that. So this is the one I chose. Going back in history, the first humans emerged in Africa around, how long ago? 2 million years ago. And our particular group, Homo sapiens, first appeared 300,000 years ago in Africa. So Homo sapiens have managed to exist. We just take our own, I guess you call it a species. We've been around for 300,000 years. Well, what's happened within 300,000 years in terms of the environment? Well, being US bound, the example that came to mind is just 21,000 years ago, North America was covered with ice sheets as much as 2.5 miles thick. You imagine that? Ice, 2.5 miles thick. So on the planet, 21,000 years ago, human beings are managing when part of the planet has 2.5 miles of ice covering it. Somehow they did. Obviously, they didn't live in North America at that time. So now we have modern technology to assist us to find innovative ways of living on planet Earth, which will make it easier to face future challenges. So 21,000 years ago, they didn't have modern technology, but I'm sure the way humanity works, it needs a challenge. Give it a good challenge and it comes up with solutions. So if we need to do something to adjust to a planet that's gotten a lot warmer, then we will have figured it out by that time. So here's an interesting one from Gurudeva. Gurudeva saw people living underground in the future. Maybe that's the solution. The Lemurian scroll states, during the next Satyuga, knowledge of working with and through the rays of the central sun will return. Then man will live underground again as he did before he came to this planet, and then remember how to travel easily through space. He will never travel easily in space until he lives under the surface of the earth, our prophets clearly state. So sounds like an interesting future. And our last question. Politics and spirituality may be considered polar opposites. Thus, for those of us who work in both fields, it often feels like the two are in conflict, and taking the time to focus on one impedes our progress on the other. How do I balance my political work, or for that matter, material work in general, with my spiritual sadhana, and have them work to complement one another rather than go against each other? So here's a short answer. This is from Making Dharma Your Own. So Dharma also relates to one's profession. In other words, if we approach our profession from the point of view of Dharma, which is fulfilling duty and helping others, it's not secular anymore. It's part of Dharma, fulfilling Dharma, and therefore it has a spiritual quality. What is this called? In Sanskrit, it is called Varna Dharma, the Dharma of one's profession. Gurudeva defines it. Varna Dharma defines the individual's obligations and responsibilities within the nation, society, community, class, occupation, subgroup, and family. And it's kind of off the page there. In other words, we fulfill the duties of the profession in an excellent way to benefit the people and do more than is required. So if whatever profession we're in, we're doing it well, we're a good doctor, we're a good engineer, we're a good politician, other people would say he's doing his duty well. We have the interest of the people that we're serving at heart. So a politician has a certain constituency, and if he's really striving to benefit that constituency, then he's benefiting the people. And we do more than is required. We just don't work 9 to 5. We try and put in extra time and help people in extra ways. So in politics, I haven't figured out a good example, but in medicine, it's common when doctors get in the middle of their career, say age 50 or so, they start to do pro bono work. And Hindus in the US tend to go back to India. So some of them work at Sai Baba's hospital for a year for free because they can afford to do that, and it's a way of giving back. So they're doing more than is required, doing pro bono work to help society. So those are all aspects of following a profession which turn it into the fulfillment of Dharma rather than a secular activity. So ideally, we find a way to turn every single action we're doing into a spiritual action. Through turning it into Dharma, through practicing concentration, through exercising self-denial, through being kind to others. And that's called work is worship. Very simple idea. So this is the short answer. This is a huge topic, and I'm just trying to answer it in a short time. So thank you very much. And we will unshare. Oh.